Hi, I'm Sam Horn, author of Never Be Bullied Again, and I am so glad that you're joining us today. Lady Gaga said, you don't have to be a loser kid in high school to be bullied and picked on. Bullying comes in all kinds of forms. She's right. And if you or someone you care about have the misfortune of being around someone who's trying to control you or intimidate you or manipulate you, if this person is making you miserable, whether this is a troll online or this is a kid who's bullying your child at school, or whether it's someone in the workplace, a boss or a coworker or a customer, you're in the right place, because we're going to talk about how you can take back the quality of your life from that bully who is doing everything they can to run and ruin your life. First, though, let me follow Richard Branson's advice. Richard Branson, of course, a global entrepreneur, said, "Time is the new money." I think time is the new trust. So that you can trust that this is a good use of your time and mind, I'm going to take 2 minutes to give you the backstory about why I'm a woman on a mission around this topic, why and how I started speaking and writing and researching it, and then we're going to jump into my best practice tips on how you can create more quality control over your life instead of giving it away to that bully. So the backstory. 15 years ago, I wrote a book called Tung Fu, and Tung Fu is how to deal with difficult people without becoming one yourself. And it's based on the premise that if we're kind and compassionate and cooperative, most people will respond in kind. However, what happened in my programs is people were saying, I agree with this, and it works with most people. But there's one person, and I've tried everything, and nothing works with this person. They don't play by the rules, they make up their own rules. And then I had my own surreal experience of dealing with the bully. And I found out for myself what a nightmare it can be. And so I went to the library, I went to the bookstore, and all the books I found were very naive and very idealistic. They were based on the, if you remove the thorn from the lion's paw, he will become your friend. No, he won't. He'll have you for lunch. Bullies don't care what's fair. They don't want a win-win, they want to win. They don't want to cooperate, they want to control. And so I wrote the book I needed, I couldn't find. And that book is Never Be Bullied Again, and it's based on this. Now, we're going to have a quiz so that you can identify whether the person you're dealing with that really is creating havoc in your life, are they really a bully? So, answer these questions. Be thinking of that person. Number one, do you talk on eggshells around this person and watch everything you say because he or she has a hair-trigger temper? Next, does this person act condescending and superior and treat everyone else as if they're stupid? Next, is this person hypercritical? Does he or she blame everyone else for goes wrong, and he or she is never at fault themselves, it's always someone else's fault? Next question, does this person have a Jekyll Hyde personality? Are they charming one minute, cruel the next? You never know who's going to walk in the door. Next one, does this person play martyr and make everyone else responsible for his or her moods? So if they're unhappy, it's because you aren't giving them what they want. Does this person insist on controlling decisions and attack anyone who dares to question his or her judgment? 3 more questions. Does this person love to create drama? Do they twist things around, make and then break promises, then claim they never made them in the first place? And does this person make passive-aggressive remarks and then say, just kidding, and then accuse you of being oversensitive? Final question. Are you happier when you're not around this person? Now, I've had many people who, when they're going through this quiz, go, yes, 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 and they start seeing that there is a pattern to these behaviors. And that is one of the most important things to understand about bullies. They have a pattern of mistreating others to get what they want. So the first point is just have the quiz and to figure out if this person's just having a bad day or if they really are a bully. Now, the second thing is to understand that there's 3 things that you can do with the 5%ers. Why do I call them 5%ers? Because I believe that 95% of people care what's fair. 95% of people will listen to logic. 95% of people want a win-win. If you're dealing with a 5%er, they don't want a win-win, they want to win. They don't want to cooperate, they want to control. They don't play by the rules, they make up their own rules. And if you're dealing with a 5%er, we need to shift the way we deal with them. So how? Next point. And by the way, would you like that quiz? Would you like my notes? Just go to sam@samhorn.com and we'll send the quiz to you and we'll send the notes to you as well. So what can you do about it? Well, there's 3 things that you can do about it. Number 1, change the other person. Ha ha ha. Not going to change the bully because they don't self-reflect and they don't self-correct. So if you think if I'm just kind enough, smart enough, if I'm just reasonable enough, they'll finally come around and come to their senses and apologize, not going to happen. So we're not going to try and change the bully. Second, you can change a situation. But maybe you don't want to move if your neighbor has a dog that's barking out at night. Maybe you don't want to leave your job. Maybe you can't remove this person from the job because they're a rainmaker and the person responsible is not about to create havoc by taking out the bully that's making all the employees miserable, but that's bringing in a lot of money. So maybe you are not in a position to change a situation. Number 3 is change yourself. And here is where we're going to do something that flies in the face of what we've been taught. Haven't we been taught that if we don't like what's happening, to use I words? Well, I don't think that's fair. I don't like to be talked to in that tone of voice. I think you're just bullies. Remember, the word I is double jeopardy because it makes us look like we're the one who's emotional and it's our problem. We're going to do the you. We are going to actually keep the attention on the bully's behavior, which is where it belongs, instead of on our reaction to it. Here's a quick example of that. A very well-known individual who's on the Larry King show years ago. 5 minutes into the interview, he interrupts Larry King and he says, "By the way, Larry, has anyone ever told you you have really bad breath?" Larry fell back in his chair. He couldn't believe what an outrageous thing to say. And he's kind of mumbling and he says, "Well, no." And this person pounced and said, "Well, I won't bother then." Now, what was going on? See, it was Larry King's show. Bullies don't want it to be your show. They want to run the show. So they will deliberately say something outrageous to back you down or back you up so they can seize control, and now they're running the show. So people say, "Well, Sam, what could that person have done? What could Larry have said?" He could have done the you. He could have looked at this person and said, "Shame on you," and then moved the discussion forward. Or he could have said, "Does this work with other people?" Do you see how instead of backing up or backing down or being defensive or explaining with I, no, we do the you. I'm going to give you lots more examples of that, but let's move on. As long as you're clear from now on, get rid of the word I when you're dealing with a 5%er, use the word you. So let's keep talking about what you can do with people who are trying to control and manipulate you. Next is, if someone is trying to physically or psychologically crowd you, you are going to protect your hula hoop of space. Now, what do I mean by a hula hoop of space? It's first, I'll show you what I mean. When I moved to this area in Washington, D.C., I took my dog Murph out for a walk. Well, we're walking along, and here's Mr. Calico Cat. And Mr. Calico Cat takes one look at Murph and takes off running. My dog is at the end of her leash trying to get at her. Well, now, 100 yards down the street, there's Mr. Gray Cat. Mr. Gray Cat stretched out in the middle of the road, and when Mr. Gray Cat sees us coming, he just slowly stands up, and there's no other word for it. He just expands. And you know what? My dog wouldn't go near Mr. Gray Cat. My dog's about 4 times bigger than Mr. Gray Cat. Why? It's because Mr. Gray Cat understands that we have a hula hoop of space in front of us, an arm's length in front of us, to the side of us, and behind us. And people do not have permission to come into our hula hoop of space unless we want them there. So how do you do that? Well, here's an example. A woman at work said that she had a boss who was very touchy-feely without her permission, but see, she didn't want to lose her job, and he would come and he would hover over her at her desk, or sometimes he would get angry and he would yell at her, or he would put his hand on her shoulder. And I said, from now on, Julie, you have a hula hoop of space. So if he comes and starts hovering, you literally and figuratively stand up for yourself. Because see, now you're eye to eye. Now it's not a dominant superior or inferior position. Now you're on the same level. Furthermore, by standing up, you're saying, I'm not taking this sitting down. And now when he gets in your hula hoop of space, you can put your hand up and say, hey, give me some space here, or back up, or give me some room. And if he puts his hand on your shoulder, you look at the hand, you look at his face. You look at his hand, you look at his face. You probably won't have to say anything. It's just that he is testing your boundaries. And as long as you allow him in your space, he will be in your face. Think about it. From now on, if someone gets in your space and you don't want them there, enforce your hula hoop of space. It is your right and your responsibility. All right, let's share some more ideas on what you can do with people who are trying to control you, intimidate you, and manipulate you. What if you're dealing with a blamer? What if you're dealing with someone who's always making it your fault? Well, John F. Kennedy said, our task is not to fix the blame for the past. It's to fix the course for the future. I am going to suggest you interrupt. If this person has a pattern of blaming, then do not give them a bully pulpit. Do not just sit and listen to them suffer in silence as they vent and take their rage out on you. Put your hand up like a policeman would, because this almost always causes people to pause, and then you can say, let's not do this. We could spend the rest of the afternoon going back and forth about who's to blame for this, and it won't get this finished. Instead, let's focus on how we're going to keep this from happening again. Or let's focus on what steps we're going to take. So interrupt someone who is venting on you, blaming on you, accusing on you, and move the conversation forward instead of allowing them to go back and forth about who was responsible. And by the way, if someone is making an accusation, you women are so emotional. Don't defend it. We are not emotional. Uh-oh, now we are. You know, it's like, stop, you're getting mad. I am not getting mad. Now we are. So instead of using the I word, just come back with the question, what do you mean? What makes you say that? Why do you think that? Do you see, once again, we're putting the ball in their court instead of defensively backing up or backing down with, I don't think that's true, I don't agree with that, which actually just once again argues their point no matter how outrageous. So what do you mean? Let's not do this. This won't help. Move the conversation forward. All right, let's go on to some other ideas that you can use if someone is trying to make you miserable. How about if someone is teasing you? From now on, understand teasing is a test. Test, test, test. Will you let me abuse you? Will you let me say mean, snarky things? So we're going to come up with comebacks. Here's one of my favorite examples of that. Pat Schroeder, when she was nominated and then elected into Congress, she shows up on her first day, and there is a gift from Charlie Wilson on her desk. Now, you may know Charlie Wilson from Charlie Wilson's War, the movie, and he is known as being a prankster. So she opens up this gift, and it is a picture of a tombstone, and on the tombstone it says, "Here lies Davy Crockett's wife." And he had added a note that said, in Texas, we don't even let women have their own headstones. Yikes! She marches down the hall. She's going to read him the riot act. She's going to give him a piece of her mind. And when she walks into his office, he's leaning back in his chair. He's got his feet up. And as soon as she walks in, he just smiles at her and he says, "Hey, baby cakes." Now, she has an option. She can get on her high horse and she can get angry. And if she gets angry, he says it's working and he's going to keep doing it. Or she can become amused and she can come back with something. And she looked at him and she said, "That's Congresswoman baby cakes to you." Boom. They became allies instead of enemies. They collaborated on research. If you're overweight, you're going to hear about it. If you're going bald, you're going to hear about it. If you have an accent, you hear about it. If you let people push your hot buttons about it, people will always have the power to knock you off balance. Come up with a comeback and it will become a non-issue. All right, let's keep going. How about if someone is controlling you? Now, this was Rita, who had just retired herself and her husband had retired too. And she said, "Sam, we had always dreamed of retiring and spending our golden years together." She says, "It's not quite been like that." She said, "You know, I want to have my book club on Tuesday nights and I want to go to choir on Thursday nights, and my husband won't let me. You know, and he makes me go with him on Sundays when we go to the field and he flies his motor airplanes and so forth." And she said, this retirement is not much fun because he won't let me do what I want to do and he makes me do what he wants to do. And I said, "How old are you?" And she said, 66. Why? I said, "Why are you using the words let and make?" Marriage is a partnership. We both have needs and rights and priorities. And what bullies do is they take, and they make. And if you see a relationship as a seesaw, any relationship, the success is in direct proportion to whether the seesaw is kept in balance. So both people are getting equal parts of what they want. The next time he doesn't let you do something, don't ask for permission. Tell him what you're going to do. "I'm going to be gone to book club on Tuesday. And thank you, you're welcome to go to the field on Sunday, and I won't be going with you." It is your right to keep the needs in balance instead of letting someone make you do something and not let you do something. Keep it brief or they'll give you grief. It is not open to debate. You keep the needs in balance when you're in a partnership instead of letting someone bullying you into not doing what you want and making you do what he or she wants. All right, I think we've got time just for a couple more ideas. I hope these are helpful. And once again, if you're thinking, "Sam, I can't write fast enough," just get in touch with us at sam@samhorn.com. We'll send you that bully quiz and we'll send you these notes as well. What if you're being threatened? What if you're being physically threatened, or you feel this person is violent, or you're at risk? There was a gentleman in one of my workshops, and he said, "Sam, I can't stop thinking about something that happened last summer." He said, "I grew up going to baseball games with my dad. Now I have 2 girls, and so I want them to love the game as much as I do, so I took my 2 girls to a baseball game. And we were unfortunate enough to be seated in one row down from some guys who got drunk, and they were swearing and cursing, and they were loud, and they actually poured a beer on one of my daughters." And he said, "And you know what I did? We got up and we left." And he said, "I can't believe that I allowed those guys to ruin that experience for me." And he felt like a wimp. And I said, "You were not a wimp. If someone is physically threatening, if you feel you are in danger or at risk, it is not being a coward to get yourself and the people you care out of that situation." He said, "Well, what could I have done?" He said, "I can't stop thinking about it." He says, I just feel like, I'm embarrassed and humiliated in front of my daughters that I didn't stand up for them." And I said, first, remove yourself from a physically dangerous situation. But then perhaps you could have gone to the usher, number 1, reported their behavior, and number 2, asked to be seated in a different area so that you and your girls could still enjoy the game. And what you're modeling for her is what we accept, we teach. We do not accept behavior that puts it at risk. However, we take responsibility for getting ourselves out of that situation, for holding them responsible, but for having a quality experience. All right, a couple more ideas is, what if your child's being bullied at school? You know, Barbara Kingsolver, the author said, whether we believe it or not, school is all about establishing a pecking order. We may wish it were not true, except that's what bullying is. It's like on the ladder, who's taller or lower on the ladder. So we don't help our kids when we tell them naively, oh, if someone's bothering you, just avoid them. We're actually contributing to what's called learned helplessness, which is you don't know what to do, then you become afraid of that situation. You're teaching them to be afraid of bullies. So two things about this. Number one is I really recommend that one thing you can do is to give your kids physical confidence by enrolling them in martial arts. In martial arts, they teach you to stand your ground. They teach you to be centered, to have a core of confidence. They teach you to stand tall. They teach you to tower instead of cower. And when you're exuding this kind of physical confidence, bullies will take one look and they don't see a victim posture of that cower, please don't bother me, please don't hurt me. They see someone who can handle themselves, and they often will go somewhere else. Now, a quick story about this. I certify people in Tung Fu and in Never Be Bullied Again. And Christina Grimm is one of our certified trainers. I was asked to speak for National Speakers Association annual convention to their youth group. And we thought, how can we help kids understand what's happening about bullying and give them tools? So Christy happens to be a world-class softball player. In fact, she actually won a fast pitch contest at the international level. So here's what we did. We had Christy bring her softball gear, and we got two really athletic young people, one to catch and one to bat. So we took all the kids outside, and Christy does a few warm-up pitches, and then she asks the batter to come up, and she fires one high and inside. Now, she's in control of the pitches, but this is a little close to his head, and boy, does he back up. Now, the next time he comes up to the plate, he's not anywhere near that plate. And Christy turns to the kids and says, that is what a bully is doing. As a pitcher, I want to be in your head. I want you to be worrying about when the next one is going to come flying at you, because now I own you. She said, now if you're a batter, here's what I do. This time, she had the guy pitch to her, and what she did is she crowded the plate, because she's saying to the pitcher, now I'm in your head. Now you're either going to hit me or I'm going to get a hit, but either way I win. She said, please understand that bullies are pitching high ones at your head to see if you duck, to see if you back up, to see if they own you. But if instead you get in their head, they're going to take it somewhere else. So what we did then is we went inside and we asked the kids, what do kids pitch at you? What do they call you? And go ahead and use the words. Because it doesn't help kids if they can't practice the real thing. So if you're 13 years old and you're being called a slut. Now, I don't use that word, but there are 13-year-old girls who are being called sluts. There are 8-year-old boys and girls being called things we can't even imagine. And if we don't teach them how to respond in that situation, they don't know how to respond. They'll start getting stomach aches so they don't have to go to school. You know, they can become depressed. It is our responsibility as parents to find out what's going on with kids and give them practice so they're prepared. So instead of learned helplessness and being afraid and having the bully dominate their school experience, they are confident that they can handle anything that's thrown at them so that the bullies are a non-issue. All right, I think we have one more idea before we wrap it up here. And that's, is this person driving you crazy? Is this person making you miserable? Is this person making you mad? Because what bullies want to do is they want to live in your head. They win when they dominate our thoughts, when we're staring at the ceiling at night and we can't stop thinking about the latest offensive thing that they said or did. So here's a story about what we can do about it. I had put up a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt in one of my bully workshops, and it said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And I had adapted it to say that no one can make you angry without your consent. No one can make you depressed without your consent. And a woman stood up and she said, Sam, you're pulling a Pollyanna with this one. You have no idea of the kind of person I'm dealing with. She said, I'm a surgical nurse. She said, I work with a neurosurgeon who's the most abrasive individual I've ever met. She said, he's a brilliant physician. He has zip people skills. He is so verbally abusive. She said, I was a fraction of a second late handing him an instrument in surgery. He berated me in front of my peers. He humiliated me in front of the team. And she said, that wasn't the first time. She said, I can't afford to quit my job. No one will stand up to him. She said, I'm driving home though, and I'm just thinking, oh. And I get home, I sat down at the dinner table with my husband. I said, oh, that doctor makes me mad. And he looks at me and he said, Judy, what time is it? She said, it's 7 o'clock. He said, what time did this happen? She said, 9 o'clock this morning. He said, Judy, is it the doctor who's making you mad? And with that, he got up and he left the room. And she sat there and she said, I thought about it. And I realized it wasn't the doctor who was making me mad. The doctor wasn't even in the room. She said, I was one who'd given him a ride home in my car. She said, I was the one who had set him a place at my dinner table. I was the one allowing him to poison my personal life. She said, never again am I going to give that individual the power to poison my personal life. When I leave the hospital, he is staying there, and I am never again going to give him a ride home in my car and going to give him a home in my head. Is there someone who has a home in your head? Is there someone who's right there in the car with you, right there in bed with you when you're staring on night because you cannot believe how hurtful they are? You cannot believe that they would say or do things that are so unfair, so unkind, so undeserved. You cannot believe and see that's how bullies own you, is they deliberately act in ways that are so outrageous. It keeps us off balance, which keeps us in their power. If you would like to know more specific ways on how you can reclaim the quality of your life, how you can hold bullies accountable so they no longer have the power to harm you or harm the people you care about, I hope that you'll check out Never Be Bullied Again. I hope you'll go to our site, samhorn.com, and that these ideas can help you take back the quality of life, hold bullies accountable, so you and your loved ones now are safe and are living the life you want, need, and deserve. I'm Sam Horn. Hope that Never Be Bullied Again helps you and the people you care about. And now if you've been listening or watching to this and you think, Sam, it's not me who's being bullied, it's my coworker, or it's someone I care about and I'm trying to help them and it's not getting through, well then you can be an upstander. You can actually bring a bully awareness program into your school sports so that if there's a coach who's yelling abuse at players, he or she can be held accountable. You can bring these ideas into your workplace. You can bring them into your community association. So be a Malala or be an upstander, and if you would like specific ways to have a program brought into your organization so that bullies are held accountable and that the employees in that organization or the students in that school or the players in that league are treating each other with the respect they want, need, and deserve, then please go to samhorn.com and you'll find some information there about how you can be an upstander and bring a bully prevention program into your organization. It doesn't have to be in October, Bully Prevention Month. It can be any day, any week, or any month out of the year.